Hello and welcome to the Weekend Spread, presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me, we got Jamison, we got Ty, and last on the poop deck, we got Boatin Blake. So, guys, week one in the book. It was a good week for me, Jamison, and Ty. And Blake, what happened? What 4-7?
Look, last year I went with the total random chance, no thought behind it picks, and this year tried to do some research, tried to do some analytics. Both sucked. So this week I'm overreacting to what happened week one. I'm going with my heart. I'm not messing around anymore. Okay, I'm just going with what I feel because I messed around on a few picks. Look, De'Aaron King I thought was going to do better. They got blown out. I said OU was going to make Tulane look like an FCS team. And my God, was that not the case? I was literally missing on just about every pick, every single pick. So I'm ready. I'm back. I'm ready to overreact to some week one results. And I'm ready to pick some games.
Blake, we all know you're just tanking just so you could have your record be 6-9. So,
Yep.
Nice. So, really, it's the nicest record of them all. Ty, back on top. Your system seems to be working. A combination of chalk and like these wild kind of out there picks, but it works. How do you feel being back in the lead?
I feel great, especially because of what Blake just said. Because before the podcast, I got in his head as the reigning regular season champion. I know that Blake's sort of analytical approach performs a lot better down the line because that's when we actually know about the teams. So I was counting on the fact that Blake would try to go analytical like week one or really prior to week 4 when you really can't and then burn out on it. So now I've got Blake picking by the heart. And now, again, I've sown the seeds of doubt in his mind. He's like, was it a strategy? Was it not? Blake, I think, is my biggest threat for sure because he actually puts thought into these. So if I can get him to not put thought into these, then we'll be good. So
there you go.
That's my strategy. That's how I'm feeling so far.
Blake, let me tell you a little bit about picking with the heart because I am a seasoned veteran. It happened to me all last year. And let me tell you something. It comes up and it sneaks up and it bites you real bad. You think you're doing something smart. You think you're hedging your bets. You're like, I'm just going to pick with my heart. I'm not going to put in all this effort and then just get disappointed. You know, it feels good when you pick with your heart, but then you end up in last and you're listening to TCU's fight song for 18 hours. So I just warn you, be careful. But picking with your heart at the beginning of the season does work because my boys, Boko, I was about to go against him. And we came right back. Blake, please tell me the interpretation of Texas State versus Baylor game.
I watched the entire game. I am not joking because I decided not only to take Baylor full game, I decided to take Baylor first half. And my God, Gary Bohannon and the Baylor Bears offense ran 2 of the slowest drives during the game when you desperately needed points. They were doing, no joke, 10-minute drives, and they were moving like 2-3 yards forward. Like, it's the perfect, if you were up by maybe 7 points, against a good team, you were the underdog coming into the fourth quarter. They ran the perfect drive, but against Boko, who they should be blowing out, they couldn't pass the ball. They could barely run it. They would just get 3 yards each time, and they would just drain the clock every single time. Didn't cover first half, didn't cover full game. It was absolutely miserable. Last week, I'm not kidding, some of my other bets off the Schooner Pod, actually pretty decent. The ones I had on here, horrible beats. These teams played absolute crap. So I'm ready to be back on here. I'm going to act a little bit with my heart. I got burned last week, so I'm fired up. I'm ready to be here.
Absolutely, for sure. I'm ready to get this thing going. We got a really good week 2 slate here. Let's get it started with Washington at Michigan. Wolverines favored by 6.5. Right after Washington had one of the most a very confounding loss, but I will say, if you're going to lose to an FCS team, Montana's not a bad one. They are a bit of a powerhouse up there, but still, what happened to the Pac-12 North? It's a total shit show. It's a mess.
Buki.
Oh no! Buki gave him the touch of death. Okay, so we're gonna go clockwise again. I'll get this thing started. Look, I get that Washington isn't as bad as they look, but I don't know. I feel like Michigan's going to get the job done here. 6.5 seems like a really good number. If this was 10, I would consider Washington, but give me the Wolverines to cover by a touchdown. Ty, moving it down to you.
Yeah, oddly enough, in looking currently, obviously we're recording about 8 o'clock on Monday, so you guys are going to get this a little later. But surprisingly enough, as of right now, the Washington plus 6.5 is sort of the favorite on looks like almost every betting site. But that being said, you know how the bets, lines move around. People think they're better or not. They go in and they place their stuff. I think that if we're picking at 6.5, like Bobby said, might go a little bit different. I think it will get a little higher probably because I think it'll bounce back. But yeah, give me Michigan to take this 6.5 here. I'm not very faithful that Washington is going to bounce back against a Power 5 team.
Fair enough. Blake, you got the Huskies bouncing back, or you got the Wolverines?
Nope. I'm not like. Blake last week would have thought, look, like Washington, good defense, kind of the dark horse to win the Pac-12 North, but I am not overthinking this. When you throw, as a quarterback for Washington, you throw 3 interceptions against Montana. I love the Big Sky. I'm a Big Sky man to the core, but that's when it comes to basketball. In the Big Sky Conference, it's not known for its football. So I got to take Michigan here. Michigan actually looked like a competent team last week, and I know, like, the best part is I'm on the Michigan under 7.5 wins this year. Like, I think it's going to be a dumpster fire. But what's so nice about this is they got a little hope last week. Like, Cade McNamara came out last week, looked good. Both their quarterbacks obviously looked really good. Running backs looked good. Everything was clicking for Michigan, and I just want to see that heartbreak. After they beat Washington, they're just going to fall off a cliff. But still, give me the Michigan Wolverines.
Fair enough. Jamison, are you going to have a dissenting opinion? It worked pretty good last time.
No, it did not. I picked against Iowa whenever I explicitly said I did not like Indiana, but screw it. I think that it's going to fall right in this 6-point range, and I got burned. So guess what? We're picking with our heart, and we're not going to let that happen again. We're going to pick Michigan. I understand that I could see Washington keeping it within 6. I really do. It makes sense to me. I think it could be closer because Washington has to come out and show out. But they only scored 7 points versus Montana. It's not like it was just a shootout and they were giving up a bunch of points. They scored 7. Yeah, come on. Michigan minus 6.5.
Fair enough. Speaking of picking with your heart, here are 2 teams I feel like we like to pick a lot. Appalachian State, Yosef heading to South Beach to take on the Miami Hurricanes, who just got shellacked last week by the Alabama Crimson Tide, who are very much back, like they never left. Canes favored by 8. Jamison, do you think Yosef can go down to South Beach and get a win?
This is a toughie for me. I talked very highly against De'Ara King last week. And while he didn't put up too much, he kind of stayed within himself. He didn't overexert, and he was, at least at the beginning of the game, he had a good completion percentage, just wasn't making the big plays that we know De'Ara King to make. I think that the Miami line's probably a little bit over-exaggerated from what Alabama did to them. I think Alabama just blew them out of the water. I think that Miami minus 8 is it should be a little bit higher. I'm going to go at minus 8 for Miami.
Okay, there you go. Blake, who do you got?
Jamison had said it perfectly. Look, like Miami, cold takes exposed right there. I was really high on Miami last week, and I should have seen it coming. It's like Alabama, the one thing they do best is they take your strength and make it your weakness that game. And De'Ara King wasn't able to do anything on the run game. He had 10 yards on 9 attempts, and that's what Alabama does best, is they find your strength, negate it, force De'Ara to throw. But look, App State, they played awesome against ECU. They beat them by double digits, and that's really good for kind of a regional rival in a Power 6, not after last week, but a Power 6 conference in the American. So that's a good win for them, but I'm still high on Miami. Like we saw it last year, Miami loses the games that they lose them bad, but the games where they're against really high-tier opponents like Clemson and North Carolina, but against these kind of other ones where they're the top dog, they really take care of business. So I got to go with Miami on this one. Yosef played awesome, and I still have them. They're like my bet to win the Sun Belt, but this game, I just think the talent is too much on Miami.
Fair enough. Ty, you've been a big backer of the Canes in recent years. Are you going to go back to the well?
Absolutely. I 100% agree with Jamison's opinions on the line specifically. I think that we have an overcorrection. I would take this not at 14, but I would even take this up to 10 and maybe even 11.5 for Miami. So
Agreed.
I think going into Miami, I'm very happy to get an 8. And I don't know how this one's going to fluctuate, but I hate doing like serious like gambling recommendations, but I would probably get in on this one just to ensure that you get in while it's good. Because if it gets better, then it doesn't really matter. You're already in. But if it can always get worse. So I really like Miami here.
Fair enough. And
also, I almost forgot. I held my tongue, but Bobby, you referred to Bama as back, the reigning national champions who've had a dynasty for the past 11 years.
I mean,
Them is back.
am I wrong? Every team's technically back. They're just really back. It's been a long couple months. But anyways, so I'm going to be the one dissenting opinion here, and I know maybe I might be falling into a Boko trap here, but look, last week I ate a lot of crow picking a Sun Belt team to take out a Power 5 opponent, and I missed. I missed the mark entirely. Louisiana didn't do it for me. Shout out to Texas. They really came out hot. But you know what? I'm going to go back to the well. I think App State gets the win here. Really?
Oh my God, the win, Bobby!
The win.
You're win.
I'm going back to the well. This one's going to hit. No one should listen to me on this one. But Appalachian State's going to beat Miami. It's going to start a downward spiral for the Hurricanes. So give me Yosef and the points. Again, nobody should ever take this advice at all when it comes to Yosef. But, I'm rolling the dice here. I feel good about Yosef pulling this one off.
Are you willing to eat crow?
I already have
crow.
I already have a crow. The amount of people who have actually reached out to me and have been like, turns out you like different ways to find crow when crow season opens. Is it legal to eat crow? I have way too much knowledge about eating crow. So if I win this, am I absolved from eating any crow?
No, you can't just.
It would even itself out. It'd be a negative crow versus another crow. I have one crow.
It's obviously not going to happen, but for the sake of everything, having researched it, we probably shouldn't talk about it on the podcast.
Okay, so what if
I shouldn't have recordings of talking about
crow?
Yeah, it's a felony.
Oh well.
Oh, it is. Well, that was missed in the.
Okay, well, never mind. I will eat
Pigeon.
I don't know. All right, App State's the pick.
I was gonna suggest, Bobby, on your tailgate, whatever meal for Texas, you Texas weekend, I'm thinking you making a nice plump bird.
No, crows are not plump birds. They're scrawny. They're all sinew. They're
scrappy.
They're scrappy. They do not have the luxury of getting fat and happy off seed. They have to live on the mean streets. That's what makes them disgusting. Anyway, that's enough talk about crow. We're moving on to the almost game of the week, but College Game Day says no because the Pac-12 is garbage. Oregon at Ohio State. The Ducks going into the Horseshoe. Buckeyes with a 14-point spread again, the exact same as Minnesota last week. This one's tricky, but I feel like Ohio State gets up for this a little bit more than they did last week. Obviously, the Horseshoe is a great environment, and Oregon really, didn't do great against Fresno. I kind of saw that coming. Personally, had some money on Fresno plus 21. So I think the Ducks rebound, but I think Ohio State is a better team, and they come out and really try to shut down Oregon here. So give me the Buckeyes minus 14. Ty?
I think this one's pretty simple. I'm honestly, I think the uniforms are finicky, but I'm a fan of Oregon. I think they're neat. But I got to go. I think Ohio State is the smart money here, and I honestly think I would expect this one to even have a little bit of a dip midweek when there's sort of a correction there. So if you could get Ohio State around the 10 or 11 mark, that would be even better. But I'm going to take Ohio State here.
Buy the dip. That's funny. I'm with you there. Blake, who do you got?
Yep, this one's just another, just don't overthink it and go with Ohio State. Like, the reasoning, Oregon, like, I'm definitely very, very high on Fresno State this year. I have them with their win total over, like, in my own personal betting. And I'm very, like, I think their offense is the second best behind Nevada in the Mountain West. So I think of Fresno State as a very high team. But, look, like, it scares me whenever Oregon goes up by that much and then can't score themselves and just allow Fresno State to get back into that game. And without Kayvon Thibodeau, who is their best defensive end, is supposed to be a top 10 NFL pick next year, like in the NFL draft next year, and he's questionable with injury. Like, I just can't trust Oregon enough. And even as bad as Ohio State played last week, like, look, they have two elite receivers. We saw that Olave run like that. Like, it's a 20-yard pass that he basically took to the house. Like, their receiving core is elite, that even if you don't believe in C.J. Stroud, believe in elite receivers that can catch it in open space and just make things happen. So, really, Minnesota had their best game of the year. Ohio State had their worst, and they were still able to at least get a push on the spread. And you're now back at home versus a team that I would say is pretty comparable to Minnesota right now. You got to give me Ohio State. I'm just not going to overthink this one.
Fair enough. Jamison, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going with Ohio State as well. I picked Ohio State in my wild card last week. And so in watching that game, I learned a lot. They've got a really young defensive back squad that has a lot of talent, but needed a lot of experience as well. And I think that first game of the season, there were a lot of plays that they should have made better. And I think they got very lucky that Lathan Ransom isn't out for a targeting right now for that first half. And I think Blake, if I pretty much was going to go before him, I was going to say the exact same thing. You know, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, they're just special, and they get the ball and they get points. And C.J. Stroud, while he was, not amazing and not eye-catching, there are a couple, his interception and a couple throws I didn't like. I think he's a guy who's good enough to get them the ball and get it to his playmakers. And plus, they got a good running back room there in Ohio State. So as long as the defense puts it together, and Oregon's passing attack was not really that potent last week, I feel pretty good about Ohio State and their D-line to shut them down.
Fair enough. A sweep for the Buckeyes. So we are all in consideration there. Now, this game is going to be fun. I feel like we picked it every year, and at this point, it's a rivalry or a tradition or something. Kansas at Coastal Carolina on a Friday night. The Chanticleers favored by 25.5. This is the most they've been favored by the way, I think this is the most they've been favored by in the history of this. I can look at the logs here. Last year they won by 15 in Lawrence. This time it is being played on the teal turf. Jamison, do you think the Chants could cover 25.5 against KU?
Yes, absolutely. Kansas should have an almost loss to South Dakota. That is absolutely embarrassing. I understand there might have been, some high points in Bean, the quarterback for Kansas, but his name is Bean. I'm not going to ever bet with a guy named Bean. So Coastal 25.5, I think it should go a lot higher. I think I'd bet it, up into the 30s, to be completely honest with you. They just beat Citadel by 38, and I would say Citadel football program is comparable to that of South Dakota and Kansas. So, points add up there, honestly. That's how bad Kansas looked in that game.
Oh, goodness gracious. Dang.
Well, it was South Dakota. South Dakota's miserably bad.
They were very bad. They're very bad.
Yeah, or I guess I'm next, but off of Jamison's thing, look, like Kansas came into last week a 14-point favorite. A 14-point favorite against South Dakota and almost fumbled the bag. I saw this number, honestly, I don't know who's betting it down. I saw it at 27 earlier today. People must be slamming Kansas, just hoping for a backdoor cover or something. But dear God, this Kansas, I can't bet on this Kansas team. You're basically betting on one of the weird like backdoor cover plays that happened last year, where like Jamison would take Kansas on a random game on a Saturday, like at 11 o'clock, and they would get like a punt return touchdown to cover the spread. Like that's what you're hoping for here, and I just can't. I can't be that risky. So give me Carolina.
They don't have Puka to save me with this kickoff return backdoor covers anymore. I can't. Like I said, Puka was fun to bet with. Bean, I'm not picking a man named Bean.
Fair enough. I mean, this is that was a bad performance from Kansas, and I feel like a lot of people would have gone with KU over South Dakota, and some people missed a burn there. Ty, who do you got?
Yeah, KU, all it counts is W's in the win column and specifically in the Big 12 for me. So I don't know about that one, but I think Coastal here is the reasonable and prudent take. I also think, don't watch this game. Their field is like, it's a weird color. It's like not quite, it's just weird. It makes you feel like your TV is broken or something.
I think he says that every single time. It is a staple.
It's like just the perfect color to like wash out the jerseys, especially when you got KU that's another like blue and white dominant like thing, and then Coastal comes out in like the normal jerseys, and you're not sure if like your TV's broken and it's supposed to be like a Boise field, or if your TV's broken it's supposed to be a normal field. It's just confusing. Gives me a headache, makes me nauseous. Don't watch this.
Wait, sorry, are you picking Coastal?
It's going to make me even
Kansas?
more nauseous seeing Kansas out there.
So Ty, you're going with Coastal or Kansas, right?
Yeah, Coastal.
Okay, so I'm a big Coastal guy. I loved Coastal last year. I rode with Coastal last year. I'm gonna pivot because I get that KU was god awful in game one. Don't get me wrong. But with that being said, if you look at their history against Coastal, only won by 5 in 2019. Coastal also only won by 15 in 2020. 25 and a half points. That's a massive jump up. I think Lance Leipold could get this thing close. Pull out a weird cover. We've seen weirder happen. The Camels have done weird things. I think KU covered against I believe it was Boston College a couple years ago. I think the Jayhawks have a weird cover up their sleeve, and I think they make things interesting. I think the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers take a step back this year, and this could be a sign of their undoing. Kansas obviously loses. I just think they find a way to scoot into a backdoor situation here. So give me KU plus 25.5. I can't believe I'm saying that.
No, I mean, it's a really high line. It's not as crazy as it sounds at first listen.
It's just too high for me with Coastal is all. I've this early I'm a little out on it, but I think the streak again the cover streak ends for Coastal here. By the way, in the previous two games, Kansas was favored in both of them. 9 points in 2019 and 7 in 2020. So how times have changed big time. Anyways, moving on, we got the Turnpike Classic, Tulsa at Oklahoma State. Cowboys favored by 13.5. Rough week one for both of these teams as Tulsa just straight up loses to an FCS team. And Oklahoma State needs a pretty good performance down late to beat Missouri State, who OU fans saw last year and was quite terrible. With that being said, both teams played like shit last week, but I think Oklahoma State's just a bit better here. Tulsa lost a lot of talent between this year and last, and I don't think they have it in them. I know I was burnt wrong on this last year, but give me the Pokes to cover 13.5. I like that number for Oklahoma State. Anything a little bit higher, and I'd have to question it a bit. Any other team, and I'd question it a bit. But I think the Cowboys get the cover and the win here. Obviously in the win. Ty, who do you got?
Yeah, this one's pretty simple. It's Oklahoma State. Tulsa was just atrocious, and Oklahoma State always does this, really really impressive stuff against bad teams. So
fair enough. Blake, who do you got?
This sucks because I feel like this slate, like unlike last week, just breeds a lot of consensus, and I think it's just partly because like 13.5 right here. There's no way in my mind. Like both these teams played down, but 13.5 is such a weird number that it just obviously favors the favorite. And I just think Oklahoma State, this is one of the games, like I swear, this game happens every year, and the line I always think is super whack, and I bet it really, I bet a lot on it, and it ends up being a lot closer than I think it is, and, it could easily be that way this year, because obviously, Oklahoma, Tulsa, understandably, came out a little bit slow, because they were, UC Davis is a good FCS team, plus the fact, Tulsa in that game, they didn't have any of their starters basically in the first half because of I had totally forgotten about this. I'd seen that Tulsa didn't have their starters for the first half, but for the Military Bowl, the big brawl that they had, knocked out 10 different players from the first half this year. So didn't know that going into the game, but I just think the talent here is talent at home, 13.5. That's just too bad of a number. Give me OSU. This is just bad number.
Yeah, it's too good to not take, as it is every year, and this is probably going to be the most nail-biting game of all of them on the slate. So, Jamison, who do you got?
Yeah, we're just rolling a lot with chalk because whenever you look at this slate, there's a lot of picks that look very, very good. And we'll see if they change throughout the week, and that's part of the wonder of picking on Monday. Spencer Sanders not playing in the last game was a huge reason I think that they didn't play well, because I think it is so stupid on their end that they have a guy like Spencer Sanders and then the backup quarterback behind him is a complete polar opposite in Shane Illingworth. Shane Illingworth cannot move. He is more immobile than Phillip Rivers when it comes down to just mobility. It's just miserable. And then you got Spencer Sanders. He makes his game off of being mobile and, getting out of the pocket. And so you play your whole week preparing with, Spencer Sanders. Then he gets hit with COVID-19 protocol. And then you shift to Illingworth. And I'm sorry, that's just not good whenever it comes down to preparation. Now Spencer Sanders is listed as the quarterback on the depth chart for this week for Oklahoma State. So it looks like he didn't get COVID. It was more of a contact tracing thing. Therefore, he should be good to go. And Tulsa lost both of their cornerbacks to transfer last year. Their defensive backs did not look good at all last game. I was talking to someone on the Tulsa staff, and they just said it just looks horrible. This is just not a good year for them at all. Give me Oklahoma State confidently at minus 13.5.
Okay, there we go. Consensus for the Pokes. Moving on to a game I'm excited about. It's a Cheez-It Bowl 2 Electric Boogaloo. If you remember this classic game, as I'm sure noted Horned Frog fan Boatin Blake does, it was a total shit show. Multiple interceptions, incredible atmosphere, Cheez-Its being thrown around. Everything that could go wrong in a game went wrong, but it went so right. And now we have these two teams back on the field to bring it back. I can't wait to watch this one. Jamison, get us started with this one. Who do you got, TCU or Cal? The Frogs are favored by 10.
Let me say this. That Cheez-It Bowl probably is the most fun I've ever had watching a non-OU football game. And by far. It was so fun because it was so bad. All the interceptions, all the things you talk about. But we forget about the coach that tripped the guy on the sideline too.
No, it wasn't the coach. It was the PR guy from TCU. He wasn't even the coach. He was just the random PR guy that was on the sidelines for the game to give an interview after the game. Just tripped a guy.
That's so much better. He's not even really affiliated.
He's just
that's what makes it. It's not like a Mike Tomlin where it was obviously very he was intending to trip him. It was just a guy that had no intention being on the sideline, just didn't know what he was doing out there. It just knocked into a guy.
Just some guy on the athletic staff who got way too excited. That's incredible.
I could see Clark Stroud doing that for OU.
Oh, no.
And doing it very purposefully. And I could see him putting his body on the line, not just, putting his leg out. Just doing something stupid. But yeah, I like TCU here. Honestly, right. I like TCU minus 10. We've talked a lot about how we like TCU this year. And Cal losing to Nevada, even though Blake loves Nevada, is just not a good sign for them. And it's not a good start to the year.
going into this. And plus the 10 number is a clean number. I like that. So let's give me TCU here.
There you go. Clark Stroud would definitely be the one. He would be like filming himself dabbing too hard and then accidentally fall onto the field or something.
Just something. Throw up. I could see Joe Haraz try to, but then just get absolutely ran over and parted off in a neck brace.
He's too cool for that.
And still technically being ejected, but he's going out in the golf cart while the player's perfectly fine.
Oh my God. Incredible. Blake, I know you're excited. This is the first time the Frogs have appeared on the slate so far. How do you feel about them?
This is the no-brainer of the week. I saw this number come out on Bovada earlier at 9.5, and my God, did I hit that, because that is just such an easy line, and I was wrong last week a lot. Majority of my analysis was wrong, but the one thing I was right about was my wild card pick with Nevada and Cal. I told y'all last week they are an all-defense, no-offense team, and we saw it with kind of Georgia a little bit. We saw it with Washington. And the problem with these teams that rely so much on defense is their defense is good and can hold the offense for a while. But if you're not scoring anything, they're eventually going to break. And that's really what we saw in the Cal-Nevada game. That was my favorite game, one of my favorite games last week. I stayed up to 1 a.m. to finish that game. And it was awesome because Cal, they were hot offensively early. They got 14-0, but really couldn't do anything else because that offense is really, 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 really bad in Nevada. And I'm obviously a big Nevada fan this year. I have them in every single future that I possibly can. And I believe in their offense, but my God, this is a Mountain West team. Their defense really isn't elite. Their offense has good players for the Mountain West, but you're a Pac-12 team. Why can't you beat them? And I just see this as by about 7 points last week, and then now you're giving me the Frogs at home with 10, who we actually looked good last week. My one Gary complaint this week, I always have one because he's an imperfect coach, but stop with the running back by committee. Zach Evans is the best running back on our staff. Stop running 4 different guys and saying they're the same caliber as Zach Evans. Zach Evans is so much better, but Cal did well stopping the run versus Nevada last week. Got carved up on the pass. We got better running backs. We got better receivers. Maybe not quarterback, but we got better players, and we're at home. This is just easy. This is so easy. I think this game is going to be over by the first half. Give me TCU.
There you go. Very confident on the Frogs. Ty, who do you got?
I think I agree with Blake here. I think TCU, I've constantly said this when I talk about TCU. I think they are, depending on how gooner you are on OU, and then your thoughts on Iowa State, but TCU I think is for sure top 3 best coach teams in the Big 12, and I really think that is going to drive most intelligently coached. I'll say that because that's vague enough that I can define it however I want to when they get exposed this weekend. But I think that is the factor here with Cal in the electric boogaloo of the Cheez-It Bowl. I don't think it's going to be a repeat of the Cheez-It Bowl, but I like TCU.
Yeah, no, this game isn't going to be nearly as close as Cheez-It Bowl 1. The sequels are never good. Just like the original Electric Boogaloo was not nearly as good as the first movie, if you know what that is. I don't even really know what the movie is. I know the reference, though. Frogs are going to win big. I've been big on TCU in the preseason. They obviously took care of business against Duquesne, who, whatever. TCU always starts with the worst teams. Yeah. I do not know what
we've had the only time we've ever had a good first game was against LSU. We lost. And then when I went back, and I think in 8th grade, I went to Oregon State. It was either 8th or 9th grade, but Oregon State TCU when they opened up in Cowboy Stadium, and that was the start of the Rose Bowl year. But that's the only respectable schools we've ever played in the first week. It's always bad teams.
That's just how it is. Unless you are playing a big Cowboy Stadium game against LSU or Oregon State, or the Ohio State one was mid-season. But you get the point.
Yeah, it was
Frogs are going to win this one big. It is in Fort Worth. So obviously home field advantage there, but Cal just not good. So I don't know why the line's 10. TCU is rolling through this one. Moving on, we have a big. This is an SEC game now, I guess. Texas at Arkansas. Horns favored by 6.5. Massive opening game for them last weekend. Really took care of Louisiana. And again, they were the team that made me eat the crow. That being said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back. I don't learn. And I am actually really kind of high on Sam Pittman, Arkansas's head coach. I think he is very solid. Hasn't quite gotten that signature win just yet. I don't know if this is it, but I think the Hogs fight through this one very, very, very toughly. If you look at this rivalry, because this is actually a rivalry for Arkansas, they have a tradition of kind of hopping up on Texas and taking them out in weird scenarios. Usually it's in these weird ways, like the Cotton Bowl one year, the Texas Bowl one year, where you had Bielema beat the Horns somehow, and that really underlines how weird this rivalry can be. So I think Arkansas has a chance at making this interesting, and I'm going to go with the Hogs plus 6.5 on this one. Ubben from The Athletic had a really good article about how this was way earlier in the offseason, where he thought Arkansas should join the Big 12 just because he hates Texas. We lost Blake. That's not good.
Blake left. Blake was so bad.
The take was
just logged out.
I don't know if I deserve that one, but he basically said Texas is the one team Arkansas actually hates, and I think the energy in Fayetteville is going to be insane. So give me Arkansas to cover 6.5. Ty, you're technically up next. Who do you got?
Easy. I don't even need to do a lot of analysis. Texas is a better team than Arkansas. They're going to beat them by at least a touchdown. Horns up. Give me Texas. Sark has yet to locate a nearby casino and apparently also a nearby liquor store. So until that occurs, I think Texas is going to be pretty dominant. So
cool. Blake's internet died, so we're going to kind of sit here like a bunch of idiots for a little bit. There he is.
About that, something went wrong with my internet.
Hey, no worries, Blake. So what you missed, I picked Texas plus 6, I picked Arkansas plus 6.5. Ty picked Texas minus 6.5. Who do you got?
So I have to go with Texas in this, and this is just one of those times where I wish I could come up with a situation that Arkansas would win, but look, like I saw Texas last week, and they looked very impressive against the ULL squad that I really liked. And one of the things ULL does best is the run. They're a run-heavy team. Levi Lewis is a good passer. He can do what he needs to do in that side of the ball, but they've always been a run-first team, and Texas was able to negate that. And you're going to Arkansas, who Arkansas last week literally was very, very reliant for all their points from the running side of the ball. They were down at half to Rice, which Rice might be one of the worst FBS teams right now that exists. Like, they are starting to get that UTEP. I think UTEP has taken the next step up, and Rice has filled in their spot. Like, I really do not like Rice. And, yeah, there's no way I can choose against Texas with this 6.5 number. I got to take Texas 6.5.
That's fair enough. It's a good line. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Jamison, go ahead and do it.
I really was hoping I'd be after Bobby, but it's not going to work up. I really wanted him with the Lee Corso. Ooh, bad pick, Bobby. Texas. This is by far my favorite pick of the line, and I'm going with Blake here. Rice. They only Fetty-whopped Rice 38-17. And like you said, they were struggling with them in the first half. At Arkansas, they lost Felipe Franks, who already was an embarrassment, and now, they're kind of just going back to their old self. They had a good season last year and played a little bit competitive. I think they're going to regress a little bit more this season. They don't really have too many stars on that offense. They're one guy transferred to Oklahoma. And Texas, if you watched any of that game, which I know you watched a large amount of it, Bijan Robinson is an absolute monster. He kicked
ass in that game. And the way that Texas played across the board, Hudson Card threw the ball very well, Jordan Whittington coming out as a great wide receiver, and Bijan Robinson doing it all. I have no idea how you're thinking Arkansas here. So I'm going Texas.
I don't know. Just have a feeling about it. You know, sometimes I feel like this is a situation where sometimes like team opens up great, and then they walk into a situation like this, falls apart. I don't know. I again could be very wrong on this. Could be walking into the exact same trap I did. I'm not going to go as far as going with like the Crow, but I think this is going to be a tougher game than people expect. Has shades of like. I feel like I've seen lines like this with Texas before, TCU, that sort of thing. I feel like I know, like this feels like a trap, and that's why I'm staying away from it.
Yeah,
in the
I just
sense
think
that
Texas. Yeah,
they could. I think that could be the real deal.
Mm-hmm. I think Texas, whenever we match up with them in the Red River rivalry, they are going to have a lot of hype. Because what I saw from that game, they looked extremely good, and they looked complete. And Bijan Robinson is a problem. I'm going to repeat that again. So we can move on, but I really like Texas so far.
I would agree with that. Moving on to our final scheduled game of the slate. We are not picking Oklahoma and Western Carolina due to the fact there is no line, and the game sucks. So we are going to Iowa at Iowa State, or as some of us on the internet call El Assico, everyone's favorite worst rivalry in college football. Never a good game. The Cyclones favored by 4. Jamison, this is interesting because Iowa State, really rough start. Almost lost to Northern Iowa, as is tradition. And Iowa rolled big in their first game, even though you went against them with your Hoosiers pick. Are you big on Iowa here, or are you reversing correction, or are you gonna stick against the Hawkeyes?
I'm really struggling with this one. I've gone back and forth this whole episode. This is the one when looking at all these lines I'm not sure on. I don't know what Iowa's going to show up, and I don't know what Iowa State's going to show up. If we look in the past, these Matt Campbell teams for Iowa State, they tend to come out really slow at the beginning of the year and then round into form. We saw it last year. Iowa is the opposite. I see a lot of the times in Iowa recently where they come out extremely strong and then they just dud throughout the year. So I really don't know what point they're at. I'm really in between. So I'm just going to go with what my first inclination was and not my second inclination. And I'm going to go Iowa State. I think that Breece Hall is going to have a better game than he had last week. He did not really get his feet under him, didn't really get a lot of big chunk plays. But I think that this is going to be really close, and I have no idea. This is extremely tough.
Fair enough. It always is a tough game to pick. Blake, who do you got?
Yep, so I'm kind of with Jamison here in the sense that there's a lot of uncertainty, and kind of the worst case scenario on both sides happened the week before this. Iowa really got a very definitive win against. I wasn't high on Indiana. In my preseason pod, I said how much I hated them this season, and it's kind of showing. But look, like Iowa played very well. Iowa State played very poor against a team that they should have killed. And it puts me in a really tough situation here because, I want to go, all I've heard about is everybody saying Iowa State's that dark horse to make the playoff. I don't believe that. But when I come down to it, I got to go. I just got to take the points to go Iowa. 6 of the past 9 of these games have come down by 6 points or less. So even when Iowa State wasn't good, they were still keeping these close. And even when Iowa State has been the best they've ever been, Iowa still wins this game. This game is just too unpredictable. So it's kind of a toss-up to me. I know Iowa State has the better talent, but when you give me a toss-up like this with 4 points, I like that number too much. I got to go Iowa. I could easily see this coming down to one possession, and Iowa State could run away with it and even could win this, but I'd take the points this when I'm so unsure. This is the one game that stumped me because of what happened last week with both of these teams.
It truly is the toughest one I've seen in a while, for sure. Ty, who do you got?
Yeah, so like everybody kind of talked about, Iowa came out and performed. Iowa State did not. But I think, and I touched on this with the TCU one. I don't think anyone would argue this one. Iowa State is by far the better coach team. And I can see Matt Campbell being able to really, pull his guys together after that embarrassing performance, which he has done before. And it's at home, and I could really see them, coming out and performing and executing and beating them by at least 4 points. I really don't see how that's going to happen any other way. So I think Iowa State is a pretty easy take here at -4 for me.
Okay, fair enough. I get that because I think Iowa State has the potential to be a better team. They're definitely better than what we saw week 1. I think Iowa definitely probably overperformed week 1. So I think both teams revert to their median, which I think they might be staring at each other in the face at this point. And like Blake said, these games are always close. They're always sloppy. They're always a mess. So I'm going to go Iowa. I think Iowa has the upper hand in terms of attitude, in terms of, this kind of feels like their state. This kind of feels like they're, usually in these games where both teams are hyped up, Iowa usually is the team that steps up, makes the plays when they need to. I'm not certain about that because Iowa State is better than they've ever been. It is at home. It is in Ames. But, I'm going to say Iowa State wins by 3, but that ain't a cover. So it's a very, very, very close matchup. This could be overtime. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting game to watch. Maybe not a great game. I could see it getting real messy. But I'm excited. So give me the Hawkeyes to cover the 4 points. But it's going to be close. Moving on to our favorite pick of the week, the wild card. And I'm going to start us off here with a game I have had highlighted since preseason. I can't wait for this. And I've got to say, I'm a little disappointed that I'm not getting any points on this. I'm going with Pitt -2.5 at Tennessee. I was ready for this to be like a big upset, but apparently everyone has caught on to this. Tennessee, they weren't great against Bowling Green, a really bad Bowling Green team. But with that being said, I feel like Pitt, the super weapon, has been charging. They didn't get to use it really at all last year, and even though Tennessee's not good, this would just be too perfect of a game for Pitt to just blow up Josh Heupel in Tennessee. So give me the Pitt Panthers cover 2.5 on the road at Neyland. Let's get weird.
This is just cyclical Bobby going back to the pit, and he's gonna pick them. He can be like, "Ooh, I really like that. I really like they beat Tennessee. I feel good." And then he's gonna continue to pick the rest of the year, and then he's gonna hate them again by the end of the year. Gonna take an off season off. He's gonna come back to it, and then he's gonna be like, "Ooh, I really like that Pitt line," and it's just gonna come back.
My first Pitt win, I'm giving up on Pitt. I'm throwing them into the trash because they've already used their purpose. That's my thought on Pitt. Ty, who is your wild card?
Yeah, so mine, I'm going to have to go ahead and take it off the board. San Diego State at Arizona. The line is currently -1 Arizona on DraftKings, FanDuel, and some other people have it at -0.5. So for the purposes of the Schooner Pod, we're picking outright. And when I see that outright pick, and I know it's kind of, bad form to go with one that's this simple, but I went with a ridiculous Mississippi State one last week. So even if I win this one, it's a wash for me. So I'm going to have to go ahead and I'm going to take Arizona, the favorites, and take them outright as my wild card. But, I summon Pot of Greed for one additional pick. This one doesn't have to go for the record, but for the gamblers out there, Air Force currently -6.5 at Navy. As you guys know, I follow Navy football. They were atrocious. I think they lost to Bishop Sycamore last week. And Air Force has also been pretty bad, but I think that Air Force has it by at least a touchdown. So if you're going to listen to one of my picks and consider putting your own hard-earned money on it, I would look at that Air Force Navy game for sure, as long as it stays under 7.
We got to put Pot of Greed as a rule in the future.
like one per season or something.
You could summon Pot of Greed once.
What if people use Pot of Greed to summon more Pot of Greeds?
I mean, it's possible, but you can't do that.
What do you do, Yugi?
Oh my god! All right, man, I love the wild card picks because we're getting as weird as possible. We're all pretty exhausted at this point. The Scooter Pod boys have been recording for 2 hours straight. It's good stuff. All right, Blake, who do you got?
So first off, Ty's Pot of Greed pick, awesome. Last week I had Marshall over Navy, and it was the easiest pick on my slate. When I saw 2.5 versus this bad, like Navy's supposed to be the worst of the American, that was a no-brainer. Blew him out. I love Ty's pick with Air Force. I don't even know anything about Air Force, but just seeing what Navy is this year, awesome pick right there. But my pick this week, and it just kind of sticks with kind of like the teams I liked in the preseason. I love NC State, and I love NC State versus Mississippi State. And there's a lot to like about NC State. They went up against USF, which I know is like basically an FCS team at this point. So sad. They're horrible, but they got the job done. They didn't allow any points. They had 2 guys that rushed over 100 yards. Their quarterback, Devin Leary, consistent guy, probably not going to be like a barn burner, like not going to go out there, take over the game, but this is, like I said in the preseason, a well-coached team. They're good on defense. They're good on offense, very consistent. On the other hand, we got the pirate ship over there in Mississippi State, and all I need to say about Mississippi State is they got carved up by Austin Kendall. Austin Kendall, Big 12 dropout, 2-time Big 12 dropout. He couldn't make 2 teams. Carved them up this week, and I hate the body language coming from Mississippi State. Whenever you beat this team barely, I know it was a big comeback, but this team that's ranked mid to bottom half of this Conference USA, you barely beat them, and I see the Mississippi State players over on the sideline flexing all over them and stuff like that. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's their 1 win on the year. Like, my God, horrible body language. Give me NC State -3, a team that I think could be 3rd or 4th in the ACC. God, that was just crap. Yeah, it's just horrible body language. I hate that.
Yeah, Mississippi State is still riding on that win from like 2 years ago against LSU.
Yep.
And I think they have at least another year and a half of coast out of that, honestly, at this point.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I will say that the hot seat might be on them because now they actually have a national championship, even if it's just in baseball. So, now they actually have standards. Before they had, literally 0. But anyways, Jamison, who do you got?
Blake, that was a very smart pick. I was thinking about that one. I was in between 2, and I had one that I thought would be, more fun, and then I had a smart pick. And you took out the smart pick, so guess what? We're going with the fun one.
I know what you're going for, I think.
And I think a lot of people listening have a little bit of an idea what's going on here. So, Ty, did you notice that me and you picked the whole everything the same this slate? We picked the favorites in every single one.
I did pay attention to that, actually.
Yes, we did. I thought that was very interesting. And I also noticed that you like to pick, 1 point, slate games. Or
I don't. I picked
you like to pick the winner
last week.
Well, I've just seen in the past. You like picking, where you can just go 1 point and you can just pick the winner. Yeah, it just makes things easier, so you don't have to worry about it.
For sure, yeah.
But it's nice because you don't have to worry about the points. You just got to worry about the winner, and it makes you feel a whole lot better. And we were talking a little bit before the pod about one of our favorite teams who currently has a 1 point line, and that's Boco going on the road to FIU. And
no.
Listen, guys. Texas State got me good last week, and I had to go out and pick out with my heart. I almost picked Baylor because I thought Boco had spoiled me, and I said I'm never going back to that Boco. And I went back, and it felt so good just seeing that they got the cover. And we didn't like Baylor that much, but, Boco did it. Guys, I've learned from my mistakes. Give me FIU -1. Come on, you can't only get Boco
No.
You can only pick Boco once, and then they go down for the rest of the season. FIU is at home. They won last week. Boco lost last week.
-1. Give me FIU.
Jamison,
Do you
you
realize
didn't learn the lesson. You didn't learn the lesson. The lesson is not that you don't pick for Boko. It's that you don't pick Boko at all.
You don't touch him.
Toxic, whatever you do.
No,
You realize
I
FIU is the Boko of Florida. You realize that, right? Like you are picking.
Ooh.
It's Boko on Boko violence, like right now.
Ooh,
Here's the thing: if we think Boko's wild, because the Florida Boko, this one's on bath salts.
Ooh,
Okay.
I like this.
Boko's just hammered on Frio Light. He's not on bath salts.
I'm
man.
going FIU. I've learned the ways. I had a smart pick. I said I like NC State. They just demolished, and they're going 2.5. I really like that line. And Blake he decided my fate. So thank you, Blake.
Okay.
This was a heel turn. It was like watching Han Solo get stabbed and thrown off a bridge.
Jameson, if Boko wins this game, like how bad are you gonna feel? Like how do you recover from you turned heel against your team and they just outright beat your pick? Like outright beat them, not like a weird cover like bet against them, just outright beat them.
Well, it's 1 point. It's 1 point.
I know that, but
You know what? So be it. So be it. If Boko wins, I'll be very happy for them. But then I've learned my lesson and I will move on. But I believe that last season, Boko started off well. And I was like, ooh, I want some of that Boko. And then I got in late and then they just weren't covering. They were horrible at covering for the rest of the year. I think that Baylor, keeping it close with Baylor and the Bear on College Game Day, picking Boko on national television is a big, big deal and giving them some respect. Therefore, this line is going to be a little bit pushed towards their side. Give me FIU.
Oh my gosh, that was remarkable to watch, but heartbreaking. Dang. So okay, here are the slates for those of y'all who have been listening this whole time. Ty and Jamison have the exact same slate. Michigan, Miami, Ohio State, Coastal Carolina, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas, Iowa State. Blake has the exact same line as well. Exact same slate as well, except for Iowa over Iowa State. And I have the deviant of very living dangerous, folks. Michigan, Appalachian State, Ohio State, Kansas, Oklahoma State, TCU, Arkansas, Iowa. And then the wild card picks, I have Pitt minus 2.5 against Tennessee. Ty has San Diego State falling to Arizona by 1. San Jose, sorry.
It's San Diego. It's San Diego.
We lost Blake again, but
Is it San Diego?
It's San Diego.
San Diego.
San Diego State.
San Diego.
Hey, you can
I
have
already
your
closed out of
mulligan.
my notes.
It's okay. You're fine. I'm pretty sure San Diego the better one, or nope, San Jose is
I
better.
don't have Arizona either. I had notes on it. I just closed out of them.
Either way, he has Arizona. Blake has NC State over Mississippi State, and Jamison stabbed his beloved Boko in the back and picked FIU. A true heel turn moment, but another great week for the weekend spread, guys. Thanks for joining us.
I need a edit tie of me stabbing Boko, the Bobcat mascot, please.
At 2, Jaime. Yeah.
Yes.
At 2, Jamison. Incredible. All right. Final thoughts. Jamison, I'll let you start.
I really hope this works out.
Looking like a man of confidence. Oh no, that reads like a last words, like final quote before you die. I really hope this works out. Oh no. Oh god. Blake, final words before the slate ends.
Just do better than last week. Don't overthink it.
Oh, no.
It can't get worse.
Oh no.
The viewers must be so confident.
Like it literally can't get worse.
Worried.
It can't get worse for me. Like literally, like I think this slate is very straightforward, which honestly scares me. Like after looking at these, I'm like, this seems very straightforward. Like these numbers, everything. I can't do much worse than last week. So that's
Fair enough. Fair enough. Ty, final thoughts
I'll
on
tell
this?
you what, if I picked my picks in a vacuum, I'd be very confident. But knowing that Jamison entirely and then Blake for the most part, well, not Jamison necessarily, because he and I are neck and neck. We got a 1-game difference, but knowing that we're right there with Blake on our picks, it's rough because we like to see different picks though, because that's when you get we can get big swings in the scoreboard. At the end of this week, Bobby could be in a dominant win. I haven't done the math, but presumably at 8-7 overall. Maybe not, but yeah, it's we'll see. We're early in the season, so it's hard to do real analysis on the teams. So I would keep that in mind. But yeah, I'd look into that Air Force Navy for sure.
Which is why I just let it ride. So, all right, guys, thank you all so much for coming on and talking about our picks. Looking forward to seeing how this week shakes out. And thank you all for listening as well. It's always a great time. And, let us know your picks in the comments below. So for me, Jamison, Ty, and Boatin Blake, this has been the Weekend Spread presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network. We'll catch you next time. And good luck out there. I hope it ends well.